Hey everyone, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us to this mentor talk or to live talk. It's 9 p.m. actually in Tunis, the capital of Tunisia, and it's 3 p.m. the eastern part of USA and Canada. And tonight I'm really honored to host one of the most outstanding experts worldwide. Sardek is the CEO of Sardek LOVE International and co-author of Speak for a Living second edition. As the creator of the Master Virtual Presenter Program, he teaches leaders and talent development professionals how to create highly engaging virtual training for any course topic. As an incredibly popular international keynote speaker and author, Sardek has spoken and delivered training programs, wow, in 32 countries. Known worldwide for his incredibly engaging style of speaking and facilitation, he was cited by the Association for Talent Development, ATD, as one of the top 25 global thought leaders in talent development that spoke at the 2018 ATD International Conference and Exposition. Sardek, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for accepting my invitation tonight.
Fares, it's my honor and my pleasure to be with you and all of your followers. So the pleasure and honor is all mine. Thank you for having me tonight. And I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you so much. You are one of the masters worldwide for virtual presenter programs and for highly engaging online trainings. I want to ask all the trainers, the followers, you can interact with us, ask questions. I'm looking to your comments on Facebook Live. I knew you from a live talk with my dear friend or our dear friend, Felipe Carrera. So hi, Felipe, if you're watching us actually. And thank you for enlarging the network because this is one of his specialities and he's an author of networking book. Tonight, Sardek, we want to share tips and techniques with trainers, facilitators, because we are living actually in the new era, the new never normal, and people are switching to the digital facilitation and trainings. This is why, before starting our topic, we want to know you more. What's your background? When did you start the training and facilitation? I don't think that you started that on the COVID-19 era. It was many years ago. So let's start with a flashback.
Flashback. How did Sardek fall into this whole thing on facilitation training and doing it virtually now? Let's go way, way back to 1992, even before that. But I was an undergraduate student at Virginia Tech here in the States, in Virginia. And I went into this program called Marketing Education. And that program at Virginia Tech at the time was ranked number 3rd of its kind in the US. And it prepared students for one of two tracks. You could either teach at the high school level and teach marketing and business at the high school level, or you could teach at the corporate level. And I chose the corporate level track because I knew that's where I wanted to go. And so I learned how to do instructional design in college. And that program, Marketing Education, also gave me, it was a kind of a business degree in marketing with either teacher certification or corporate teaching background. So I started there. And when I came into the workforce in 1992, I went in as an underwriter for Blue Cross Blue Shield in the state of Virginia. And within a year, I ended up in the training role because the guy who was the head of training at Blue Cross Blue Shield was a graduate of the program that I graduated from. He found out about that we shared that. And so he recruited me into training. He said, if you ever want to go into training, let me know. And a year and 3 months into my underwriting experience, he had a trainer leave. So he called me and he said, I have an opening if you're interested, because he already knew my background. I took him up on it, and that was 94-ish. And I haven't looked back since. So That was the beginning way back then in 1994. And, I went into different roles. I was in, risk management. I was a manager. I did lots of different things and went to a consulting firm, Booz Allen Hamilton, but I kept coming back to training. And so as I got through my career in 2006, 2005, I went to Booz Allen Hamilton as a program manager. And I decided when I left that organization, I actually got fired from Booz Allen Hamilton which was shocking to me, but hey, things happen, and I'm so glad it did, because that allowed me to pursue the dream that I always had, which is what I'm doing now. So in 2007, I launched what was Infinity Consulting and Training Solutions, my first business. And so that was the kind of the shortest version I could give you.
Yeah, it's amazing, and you're happy because you were fired from the Busan, let's say, organization. So, so you're learning a lot from your failure experiences.
Absolutely. At the time, now, don't get me wrong, this felt really horrible because I didn't see it coming. And, and I always say when I tell this story, I love Booz Allen Hamilton to this day. It wasn't that I was a bad employee, and it wasn't that my manager was a bad manager. It was a classic example of the wrong fit. When I went into Booz Allen, I went in to work for someone else. That person, before I even got there, left. And I decided that I was still going to go with Booz Allen. And so I was the guy that hired me. I was his last employee that was hired, but then he left and went to, where did he go? India. He got a huge opportunity to go to India, and he tried to recruit me to go, and I couldn't. I just couldn't do it at that time in my life. And so I started working for a gentleman who I did not know at all. And, 6 months into the job, 7 months into the job, things started going wacky. We were just not the right fit, and he fired me, and it didn't feel good. But I got to tell you, it opened the door. He fired me to my dream, because I had always wanted to do what I'm doing today. And I probably would have stayed at Booz Allen forever, because this is a great company. But by him firing me, I was like, you know what? I got nothing to lose. Let's go. Let's try it. Glad I did.
Yeah, really, really amazing. You're coming from US, and in USA, you have too many trainers and coaches and facilitators. This is the country of coaching, let's say. Yeah. How did you get to be more involved in the scene, well-known? You got your name famous as a trainer in ATD and other organizations. Is it by chance, or yeah?
No, none of this, anything that you want to do and any dream you want to achieve, you have to be intentional about it. And I learned that from my mentors, even back in college, that whatever you want to do, find someone who's been there. That old Chinese proverb, if you want to know what the future looks like, go to someone who's already been in that path and coming back. So I've always followed similar people to you. I know you had Tiagi on your show recently, and I followed him back in college. And so I actually had several chances to meet him and follow his principles. And I'm a disciple of his gamification, I guess is what it's called today. But so I always followed those people. But the short answer to your question is, I was a member, even in my college ranks, I was a member of what was the American Society for Training and Development, which is now the Association for Talent Development. I've been a member for 30 some years. 1988, I think, is when I first began my membership. And I started volunteering for the association. And over the course of the years of being a volunteer, I started learning and meeting people on different committees. And so I got to know the CEO and his executive board fairly personally. And I started speaking at that conference. That was the big break. Once I started speaking at their conferences, particularly the international conference, things got better and better. And then all of a sudden in 2011, just by chance, I did this one session, 2011, called High Impact, Low Cost Training Activities That Wow Any Audience. And Tiagi was actually on the same day at the same time slot as me. So mine was around games. And so here I am slotted with the game leader, the guy, my guy and mentor. And I had a mindset at the time, I was all disappointed. I was like, why would they put me in the same time slot as Tiagi? No one's going to come to my session.
Yeah, a big challenge.
A big challenge. And my session sold out, so to speak. They filled the room before I even started. And as people were filling up the room, they had to shut the people out, at about 5 minutes before I started. I'm asking people, why are you coming to my session? Tiagi's down the hall. And this is what they said. A lot of people like me had seen Tiagi. And they said, we want to see something different. You're the new guy on the block. Let's see what you got. You want to talk about pressure?
And that's the key word, different. Something different. Yeah, I heard a lot of things during my training as a trainer. Also, people, you are not the best one, but you are different. And I think this is the best compliment that we can get from the feedback and from the audience during a training or facilitation session. I believe that being a trainer, is it both skills that we can learn and also something that we have naturally? Is it affordable? Is it for everyone being a trainer one day?
You know, that's a great question. And I can actually give you some personal experience from that.
Yeah.
You know, as expressive as I am today and outgoing as I am, I was not always the person that I am today. I've you know, earlier in my younger days, I was very much an introvert, and because I lacked self-esteem and growing up for a variety of different reasons. And as I grew into who I became, so the short answer to your question, training is a skill. You have to have the skills and understand how to engage people in a variety of different ways. So without that, it's a challenge. But there is, you know, you can develop the skill and become skillful at it, but not everyone is good at training. And I actually remember talking to a young lady who came to me. I was doing a trainer session on facilitation, and she came to me offline, you know, meaning at break, and she said, "My boss put me in this role. I can't stand being in front of people. What do I do?" And I told her, I said, "Find a new job."
Yeah, I
If
don't like
going
it.
to work, yeah, if you don't like it, if this doesn't drive you, jazz you up, and if it's making you sick, find something else. So it's not for everybody, but it is for those who like the aspect of helping others, get jazzed by it, and are willing to sacrifice and put in the effort to learn the skills of the trade.
For Sardek Love, what are the top 5 qualities of a good trainer?
Top 5 qualities. Number 1, you have to be a servant of others. You have to be interested and genuinely inspired to help others grow. Number 2, you have to have an adaptable mindset. So nothing stays the same. You have to be willing, you know, that whole lifelong learning. And number 3, which kind of goes with the mindset, you have to be willing to practice and continuous change. So the pandemic has forced a lot of us who weren't necessarily traditionally into virtual training. You know, now we're all doing that, and some of us are doing it really well. Some of us are doing it horribly. So you got to be, 1, a servant of others. Number 2, you got to be willing to have the mindset of adaptation. And then 3, the skill and the willingness to build those skills. And number 4, I would say you got to be ego-less, meaning you cannot be the guy, you know, the guy that is the guy. You have to be the person that comes by their side. So, you know, and I have a quote that I've always said: great facilitators, great trainers, great leaders, great communicators, they all do the same thing. They trade control for contribution. I don't want to be your top guy. I want to be the person that helps you become the top guy. If you do those things, you have a very bright future as a training professional globally.
That's really amazing. We get a great question from a guy who is a national president of JCI, you know, Junior Chamber International in Morocco. Yeah. Amin Mouma said, "How can you choose your own journey and be different than your mentors? I need advices."
Well, you know, so let me take my personal example of Tiagi. I have followed Tiagi, and I still follow Tiagi, and was one of the speakers at his conference earlier this year. You know, so you look at what Tiagi's doing, or whoever your mentor is, and what the people that do the best, what they do is they take and refine what someone else has done and they make it their own. They add a little twist. So you don't want to necessarily model exactly behind them. You want to take them and be inspired by what they're doing, and then put your little twist on it so that it becomes yours. And everyone who's ever been successful at anything has done that. They have looked at what others have done, put their little twist on it, and made it their own. I mean, if you look at all the different types of restaurants and food, fast food, and all the different things, everyone, no idea is original. It's just made better or different. That's it. Practice being different, stand out.
Yeah, a lot of trainers are designing content, trainings, models, etc. The problem, even we can protect our copyright and our designing, but we are not really protected. What would you like to share about ethics and let's say values of great trainers nowadays in 2021?
Yeah. Now this kind of ties right back into what you just asked, and the young gentleman asked us about in terms of not, following your mentor and being different. So when I say take what they've done and do something different, I don't mean take literally what they've done and plagiarize it, make it your own and package it that way. So take the concepts, the ideas, and make them better, different, and do it ethically. And so that's one of the big things, because trust me, if you take something and market it exactly as your own without giving attribution or, credit for it, eventually, especially in training, people know enough about this business and the things that are out there. They'll call you out on it and they'll challenge you. In fact, I write quotes all the time, Fares, and I put them on Facebook. So if any of your followers want to follow me on Facebook, you can see my quotes. And I've had people from time to time ask me openly on my Facebook page. They'll ask a question. I thought someone else said this quote, or is that your quote? Or are you stealing that quote from somebody? And I always give attribution for the quotes that I write and for the things that I use. And if it's my quote, I have it. And I have a database of over 5,000 quotes that I've written. So I can go back and look and see the day that I wrote it and what inspired me. And every single time I've done that. So when you're ethical, you don't have to worry about it, but people will challenge you and you got to be up for that challenge. So stay to the ethics and come up with your own stuff.
I have another question, but I don't think that I get it well. Amen Yabidi told you, don't you think that that by following the steps of others, you will not really gain what they got? I don't know if we got the right sense.
Yeah, that one I'm not quite sure what that means. But I'll take a stab at it. Say it for me one more time so I can hear it again.
Don't you think that by following the steps of others, you will not really gain what they got? I think it's about reaching the same results, let's say.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking is if you follow their steps, you won't necessarily always be able to repeat the results that they get. Everything I'm a performance consultant, first of all, so I focus on habits, right? And I would say to you this, no matter what you do, no matter who you follow, you will not become a master at anything without practicing your way there. It doesn't happen unless you're intentional about it. So I've become, and I used to have a hard time saying this. Because my mother raised me to be humble. And so it's always been difficult for me in my career to say I am good at anything. I come from a very humble background, but I also recognize that it's okay. And I had to grow into this. This is a growth thing for Sardek. I had to grow into the fact that I'm pretty good at what I do. And it's okay to say you're good. I don't do it ego driven. I'm not saying, look at me, I'm the best. I let my work, I always say, if you're the best, or if you want to be the best, do the work and the world will stand up for you and talk about you. Let others tell people how good you are. So, that's my short answer is just practice your way to whatever it is, what level of mastery you want. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks.
Very good. We'll deal with another question, and after that, we'll move to another topic. Because tonight, I want to remind all the audience that we are talking about highly engaging online trainings. We Embel Khoja, she's an HR manager of a big group here in Tunisia. How can we make a difference, be original in the way we train people in Word full of copy and paste, even in trainings?
Well, here's the thing. You can take, again, the same concepts, same topics, do it slightly differently, and it automatically creates a unique and different experience. And that's the joy of what we do, whether it's in HR or training. The way I train and the experience, that's what you're creating as a training professional. When you're in front of people, you're creating an experience. And I liken this to like a comedian or an actor. When we're on stage, you can think about all the different movies and actors and actresses that you love and see them. And there has been tons of stories about the same love story. I mean, let's think about it. Titanic. How many times has a movie been written and done about Titanic? Yet, when we look at all the different actors that have played, the Leonardo DiCaprio main character in Titanic. So trainers, we're the same way. It's all about creating that experience for that person so that they feel like they're experiencing it and it's talking to them. When you do that, that's going to create the difference. And that makes you really, really good.
Very nice. Let's move to the online training. The first question is classic questions. What's the difference between in-person training and the digital training? concerning the audience, the interaction, and the impact?
Well, I think this is a very interesting challenge now because most people, when I say most, the majority of trainers prior to March of this year, when the pandemic literally started to shut things down across the world, many training professionals, the majority actually didn't do virtual training quite well. In fact, most of the time when you talked about virtual training prior to the pandemic, it really meant people were really talking about e-learning, which is asynchronous, which is on demand. It's not live. So that was what was typically synonymous when you said e-learning or training online. It meant us watching something on demand. Now we understand that it really does mean, a blended approach of you have to have a roadmap for virtual where it's engaging as well. So moving something from a classroom where you had hopefully not just lecture, but you were engaging people through activities and facilitation techniques, to do that in a virtual sense is, now a lot of people think this is particularly hard. It is hard until it's not. And this goes back to one of your earlier questions, Fares, and that is the skill. See, you have to have the skill to use the platform. You have to have the knowledge to know what tools within each of these platforms that you're using are meant to allow you and enable you to be engaging. Because here's what I always say, you've all heard, well, let me borrow from someone, that book, and it's called Telling Ain't Training. And I always like to say facilitating ain't telling. Right? It's not for you to get on there and tell people what to do. It's for you to get on there and guide people to their own brilliance. Yes. And so going virtual, here's an interesting concept. People keep asking me, how do I keep people engaged? And I say, how do you not? How can you do virtual training and not keep people engaged? Well, if you talk to them all day long or all night long, that's what you'll do. It's not that you need to figure out how to be boring, not to be boring. You have to figure out how to be engaging, and it doesn't take effort if you know exactly what to do. So virtual training is actually fairly easy once you know and have a system to do it.
Yeah, before going to the content, because it's very important to know how to design and to build, I want to remind all the audience that you are delivering a master virtual presenter program. So they can go to your website, sardeklove.com, and you can give us also other links, if you don't mind, to attend your trainings, your facilitation sessions. But before that, I'm looking to your image. We are in a virtual session, actually. The background is very good. The quality of the image is a high definition image. I'm hearing you very well, but we don't see the back office, let's say, because you have a lot of materials, staff, and tools. Would you like to share with us what kind of stuff or materials do we need as a professional facilitator online or to deliver a great virtual presentations?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. In fact, this was one of the top questions I kept getting early on is, what are you using? What are the pieces of equipment that you're using? And if anyone wants I have a tech setup list that I created. If anyone wants that, if you just drop your email address and or whatever, I can send that to you, or I'll give it to Fares and he can send it out to all of the people who attended.
Thank you.
So I'll be happy to do that. But let me just keep this simple. Number one, let's talk background, then we'll go into equipment. Your background needs to be non-distracting. Let's be honest with each other. Yes.
This is not good.
It's not good if it's all distracting. And I know some of you love the virtual backgrounds that you can superimpose on Zoom, but when you start moving around, they start glimmering and flickering. Yeah. Okay, if you're a professional trainer, don't do that, okay? All right. The other thing about backgrounds, and to your point, notice my background. It's very specific, it's linearly designed. This is my office. And I have very specific things in very specific places when I do this. Number one, I want you to see my humanity. That's something I had drawn in. I'm originally from New York. That was drawn in Times Square in 1990. That's before glasses and with hair. Okay. The evolution of love.
Same case here.
Right. Okay. Number two, there's the book that I co-authored, Speak for a Living, second edition with Ann Bruce. Some awards, some stuff I got from traveling around. That was Australia, some awards and things like that. So people judge you by your background. Okay. They're immediately judging you and evaluating you and so put something there that's kind of interesting, not distracting. Okay, let's talk equipment. Now, here's some basics that every trainer, if you're going to do this and you're going to call yourself professional, you need to have these things. You mentioned it, Fares. Number one, video. You got to have an HD quality external camera. The camera on your laptop is just not good enough. It doesn't give the quality. So if you're using your camera on your laptop, it's not good enough. Now, let me qualify, because I have traveled extensively and I know bandwidth issues, come into play here. So some of the people that may be watching may not have the bandwidth and the capability. I understand that. So I'll take this with a grain of salt. Okay. Number two, lighting. You can't see them, but I have two huge lights off to my left and right that are
okay.
And looks like you have great lighting as well.
Yeah.
So you got to have good lighting. You should not have shadows. Number three, microphone. Again, you should have and invest in a high quality external microphone. I have the Blue Yeti. I highly recommend it for those of you, if you're looking for a budget microphone, that's great. That's where it is sitting off camera.
Can we see it? Can we see it, please?
Yes.
It's possible to grab it?
Yeah, because see, I can take my camera and take it off.
So we are seeing actually the light and also the microphone. It's here.
And
this is your screen and this is the microphone, and Blue Yeti, which is the best USB microphone worldwide, I think.
Yeah, and if I look over to if I scroll over here, you can see the other lights. So you can see the lights, one there.
Yeah, softbox.
And and they're off at 45-degree angles so that, and then I just plop this back on top of my external second monitor that's elevated. And so now that's the equipment.
Sorry for bothering you, but yeah, we got your back office, which is very, very important. It was about the question. And I wanna tell the people I'm waiting for my Blue Yeti microphone, but I have the C920 here of Logitech, which is a great so 1080 p HD camera, and you need also light to get a great image. So image and sound are really obligatory to deliver a great virtual session.
If you don't have those, you're not going to be considered professional.
Okay, nice. So you don't recommend the let's say the green screen and the virtual background?
And I'll be cautionary and say it's not that I don't recommend them. What I do say is, whatever background you're using, doesn't matter whether it's a real one or something that's created for you, just don't let it be distracting. That's all. So green screens are awesome. If you can create a green screen. Another friend of mine, who I did a session for on his leadership speaker series, he had a background, and I recognized the buildings. It was a background of an office, and through the windows you could see the buildings, and I immediately recognized the buildings. I said, because I know where he lives, I was like, "You're not in Dubai." He's like, "Oh, you know my background." I was like, "Yeah, I've been to that location, so I know the buildings." And that's the other thing I would also say is, don't position, or make sure if you're using international or backgrounds with windows where it looks like you're in a certain location, the worst thing you can have someone say, and he said this happened to him. Someone said, "Hey, I didn't know you were here in Dubai." And he says, "I'm not." And he was confused by the question. And then they said, "Well, the buildings in the background are at Dubai." And he's like, "Oh, so be careful with that." Yeah,
it's all about cultures, and also people can get frustrated during a facilitation session with those kind of stuff. Very good. So let's talk about timing. Which which duration do you recommend for facilitation? 2 hours, 1 hour and a half, 1 hour, or maybe a full day facilitation? I don't know.
That's a great question. And it's one that's open for debate right now with a lot of different clients. Here's my personal statement on this. For a single session that's virtual, 2 hours max. Reason being, there's just a lot of information out there that shows, and you can go through your own personal experiences, that after 2 hours of being online, if you're not used to doing this, and most people are not used to working this way, it becomes very difficult to stay focused. And if we're working from home, like most of us are in these situations, or we're training people who are working from home, I don't have as many distractions because it's just my wife and our dog, which I'm surprised he's not up here right now. Normally he's back behind me, but we don't have any small children. We don't have a lot of distractions that happen in our household, but that's not the case for many people who are working families. So, you just keep it to 2 hours to the extent possible. I recognize that's sometimes hard, but for full day sessions, and I have a client that I do full day sessions for. I say it publicly. It's not my preference. I don't like doing it that long because I know how limited attention spans can be. But if that's what the client wants, sometimes we have to give them what they want until we can give them what they need, right?
Very good. I learned a lot about training of trainers and engaging people, and let's say cognitive psychology. And one of the best methods or cycles is the Kolb cycle, or the David Kolb cycle. And after that we have the format of McCarthy, and actually even Kolb wrote a book into 2018 with Kay Peterson about new learning and experiential learning. Is it easy to adopt the adult learning circle of David Kolb in digital facilitation to make people, to activate people, to make people thinking, to deliver a theory, and to make people experiencing something?
Yes, because that's what I do. I mean, when people come to my training sessions, it's an experience. I don't call it training. I call it an experience. And I, fully am into making sure that people have the experience. And one of the ways that we do this, and as you mentioned in Master Virtual Presenter, which is my virtual signature program for virtual training, it's based off of my Facilitating with Impact program that I've been doing for almost a decade now. And what the premise is, it's got all the psychology, because I studied the Kolbe model and all the other different models, but then I wanted to make it so that it wasn't so theoretical and do something with practical tips. So how do you convert that theory into practical tips? And that's where I learned and taught, or figured out and then discovered and taught and teach now in Master Virtual Presenter. What keeps people engaged? What's the number one thing that most people, almost everyone, is concerned about? And it's a problem that they have. And if you provide training that covers a solution to a problem that they have, they are going to do this to you. They're going to sit up and listen because they have that problem. And so we give all this training on things, and that's why most training is time constrained and content heavy. It's got too much stuff in it. Cut the scrap it because no one uses it. If you want to get engaging, here's a simple framework. Give them enough information that they need to be able to do the job or task, typically the task, right? Give them a chance to practice. And focus on things where they get stuck in the process. So let me say that again. If you want to be engaging and take all the theory, cognitive theory and brain theory and all that and make it practical, design your training with these 3 components. First, find out what are their problems. Where do they get stuck in their practices or processes at work? Number 2, provide training so that they can do that, have enough information so that they can do that job or task, and focus on where they get stuck, and then give them a chance to practice getting unstuck. You do that, you'll have engagement, and that practice has to be fun. So that's where engagements come into play.
Yeah, one of the challenges that I'm facing actually, because I'm learning and I'm a new certified digital trainer and facilitator with Fernando Sanchez Arias, who is your friend also. He was my guest in my previous talk. And we learned a lot, but it's all about running during the facilitation session. You have a step to do, but you are alone. You don't have a producer. And that's your case, I think, because a lot of facilitators need a producer. But if I want to, for example, in Zoom here, I want to divide them in breakout rooms. And I have my slide shown and shared online. I'm talking about something or sharing informations. And after that, I will send them to the breakout rooms. The challenge is that how can we, let's say, divide ourselves to cover the blank and to send them to the breakout rooms without any help? It's not really easy and affordable.
No, it's not. And so I'm going to qualify my response to you on that one is I always have a producer.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to worry about the tech. If something goes wrong, I don't want to try to figure that out. I had one experience where I had that, where I served as the producer and the trainer back in January with my co-author Ann Bruce on a session that we were doing for the book. And the webinar tool that we were using, unbeknownst to me, it had a software update. And so it was going haywire while we were live. And I'm trying to figure out what was going on. And it stressed me out. I was embarrassed. And I just said, you know what, I will pay somebody to deal with that. I don't want to fool with that. So to the extent possible, and I know not everyone can do this, is get a producer. Even if it's your family member, get someone who can help you, at least knows enough about Zoom that can take some of that weight off of your shoulders. Because if you don't, what you're doing is you're splitting, like you said, you're splitting your attention, and it just makes it hard. Now, if you can't do that and you have to go solo and do it all yourself, I'm going to sit here and tell you, you want to spend a lot of time getting to know that platform.
Yeah.
And that, again, requires intentionality. You have to know, follow the blogs for that particular tool so that you know what their updates are, what are the capabilities. One of the things that I did, and again, this is something that I do in my weekly, I have a weekly video series called Ask a Master Facilitator. And the website is askamasterfacilitator.com, where I do every Monday, I release a video answering questions that people ask me around training. And one of them was, how do you deal with, being solo without a producer? And that's what I told them. You got to know the platform. And I have a comparison, platform technology comparison cheat sheet where I take the top 6 most used platforms like Zoom, WebEx, Adobe Connect, and things like that, and do based on their tools for each tool, the features that they have, like breakout rooms or, annotation tools, and tell you check if it has it or if it doesn't. If you don't know that about your platform and you're flying solo, this is what's going to happen. You're going to fly solo into the ground eventually.
That's a great advice, and you have a great newsletter also. So I wanna invite all people watching us to be to go to your website and also to register for the newsletter, because it's very, very important for trainings and also for facilitators. Here there is also a challenge. Actually, you are working a lot online and delivering virtual master classes. Which due to based on your experience, let's say, which are the best and the great platforms? Is it Zoom for you, WebEx? Which one you prefer?
Well, it comes back to what is the client expecting from an experience, right? So my preference, I will tell you, is I predominantly use Zoom and WebEx. But I'm skilled at using the others, with the exception of I do not use Microsoft Teams, because I know they're upgrading to get their breakout rooms, but you've got to do a lot of workarounds, and the producers, it costs too much more effort and work and money. So I stick primarily to Zoom because it's so easy to use, and WebEx because I've been using it for years and it's relatively easy. And most producers know how to use WebEx. Occasionally Adobe Captivate, but I stick strictly to WebEx and Zoom, and primarily like 80% of the time it's going to be Zoom.
Okay, and technically you're able to deliver the whole training, covering the circle of learning and covering all the learning profiles or styles that you have during a 2 hours facilitation session?
Yeah, because, and again, in Master Virtual Presenter, and by the way, if anyone wants to take a look at what we do in Master Virtual Presenter, literally the website is mastervirtualpresenter.com.
Yes.
So if you want to know more about that, take a look at it. Now, again, I'm a performance consultant, so I come at this, I have a bit of a different advantage than many trainers, especially like 80% of all trainers worldwide have never been trained on instructional design. So they don't actually know how to design training correctly with the adult learning principles built into it. And so what that ends up being is a presentation. That's not the right way to do it. It's going to lack engagement, blah, 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 blah. Now, what's the difference between instructional design and performance consulting? I focus strictly on isolating what are the habits of success that produce the results, right? And because of that, that allows me to concentrate and literally shrink down what it is that we train so that we can get through everything we need to get through and do it in a very engaging way in the 2-hour period. So the way I've got this structured and the benefit and a huge advantage a master virtual presenter brings to the table and to the marketplace is, and again, people can read this, they can watch the testimonials from others who've attended this, but literally it's a check mark. You go down this 1-page checklist, cheat sheet, and it tells you exactly what to do, when to do it in your 2-hour session or however long the session is. And you're going to get engagement, and it's going to cover all of the different learning styles.
You know, I'm engaged actually, but because when I'm looking through the screen, I'm seeing you looking to me directly. Is this an effort that you are trying to do to look to the camera? Because the position of the camera for me as a facilitator is not really easy to choose. It's put on the screen, but I have to look to the camera now. I'm looking to you. But to look to my trainees or learning partners, I have to look to the screen, and I'm looking to you now. So I'm not looking to the camera. So maybe I will lose the eye contact.
Yeah. This is another topic that just came up, and I did a webinar Thursday. We did a webinar on engaging activities and highly engaging in training activities in virtual training. And that came up as one of the questions in a Q&A section at the end of that was, you know, how do I look into the camera, keep the eye contact? Here's a simple technique, and it looks like you're doing this really well anyway. I love the way you've got everything set up there, by the way. So everyone who's watching this, you're the model, you're modeling it very well. And that is sit back far enough from the camera so that it looks like you have enough depth. So you're not right up on the camera. A lot of people do this with their training. They're training and they're looking down. Or you see them looking up because they're right up on their laptop. And so if their laptop is, you know, mine is down here, if their laptop and they're now looking down like this, or maybe it's a little bit more subtle like that. See, I'm sitting back. And that gives me enough of a depth where I can look and be looking without necessarily seeing like I'm coming across as I'm not looking at you. And so it's just a habit now. I know to look, and also the way you set your screen up too.
Of course. Yeah, so thank you so much for giving us this advice. Let's move to some tips, because highly engaging facilitation sessions or online trainings are not really easy, because I have to transform and to adapt all my content, all my activities to switch to the virtual class. The challenge here, for example, I want to make an energizer. A physical energizer. How to do it? I'm here. I'm sitting in front of my camera. It's cold contact, let's say, and people are looking to the screen. How to transfer this energy to them?
There are a ton of different ways you can do it. So, you know, if we had a bunch of people on here, we could demonstrate this now, but you and I can do this. Yeah, you and I can do this on screen. So let's just do this. Let's say, and I'm just going to use something simple and say, we'll do a vote, a virtual vote, instead of doing a poll. And we can do this on screen and say, the question would be, if you like chocolate chip ice cream, move to your right. Okay. If you don't like chocolate chip ice cream, move to your left or lean to your left. Or you could do the question where you could say, have you ever traveled to a neighboring country? Stand up. You know, and that kind of thing. So these are simple little things that you can have people do. The other things that you could do to make them physical, Fares, is you could give, and John Chen is a good friend of mine. He does this. He has these, I'm just going to make this up real quick. And how many times have we, of course, my pen goes out right as I do that. Bear with me. Let me find a different pen. Let me make this dark. How many times have we been on and someone is talking and they're on mute? You ever had that happen where you've been on mute?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things you can do is if you could have people say, if they're on mute, just have them hold that up. And I know,
Okay, you're on mute. Yeah.
right. You know, so anytime somebody goes on mute or they're talking and they're clearly on mute, people could have that already written out and just hold it up and the person would finally see it, right? So you
Yeah.
can do all kinds of different types of things and take advantage. I always say, take advantage of this video. Take advantage of it. Have fun with it. Be creative. Doesn't matter what it is, but get people moving around. That's one thing when it comes to camera use. That's one of the things I love to teach people is how to take advantage of this medium that we have at our disposal.
Yeah. Um, you are a funny person. I watched your videos at TEDx and also motivational speeches, and you have the joke talent, let's say. Um, can we learn that, or is this something natural? And is it really useful to engage people online?
So I'm going to reveal something to you, my friend.
Oh,
I am not naturally funny.
ah,
I am not, now I have I have taught myself to be funny, but I am not naturally funny. I don't have a wicked sense of humor. What I do is I take advantage of the absurdities of life and the crazy things that happen and just take them and have fun. And then I eventually went through a little bit of training. A good friend of mine is a comedian and told me how to lead them this way and then switch and take them, to do that kind of thing. But it can be learned because I have learned it. And so actually one of the videos that I did was, and in fact, this is available at the Ask a Master Facilitator. If people sign up for that weekly video series, one of the things I give away is access to the 5 ways that you can add humor into your virtual training. And one of them is self-deprecating humor. So make fun of yourself. Don't take yourself so seriously because everybody else doesn't. Another one is to use memes, and things that we see that are pretty funny, that are clean. And, so I give you 5 and I give models. I actually show video of me doing that.
yeah,
Like my name,
yeah,
my name's
Sardek.
Sardek. Yeah. People always ask me, where did I get my name from? I'm named after a restaurant in New York City. That's true. I can't make that up, but that's true. My mother liked Sardi's in New York City, and she decided to name her last of 7 children after the restaurant. And people hear that, I'm like, yeah, she probably might have been high. I don't know. So,
Yeah.
but so it's that kind of stuff. Just have fun. Think of the crazy things, and use them, and people will love you for it.
And even your family name, Love, so you're well known as Dr. Love.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so you can use that great stuff to make funny facilitation sessions, which is very, very amazing.
Absolutely.
This is a physical energizers, but now actually online we have a lot of free apps like a Mural, like a Jamboard, etc. Would you like to recommend to us some great applications that we can use during a Zoom session or WebEx session? Like external app, we will send a link and people will move with their smartphones or with their PCs.
Now, here's the one area where I'm always very cautious on this, but the 2 you just mentioned are the 2 that I would have mentioned. And I keep my usage of external apps relatively little and to a minimum. And here's why. You don't, and I deal with a lot of people globally. So people can come from a lot of different countries. It's not unusual for me to have people from Africa and in your parts of the world. I've been in, I've worked in Libya. I've never been to Tunisia, but I've worked in Libya and all throughout North Africa. Yeah. Yes, thank you. I would love to come. And, so when I have all these different people from different parts of the world, they may or may not be able to have access to those things. So in terms of apps that I actually use, I don't use other than the ones you just mentioned, and Kahoot. Kahoot is the 3rd one that I use occasionally. If I know I have a group of folks that are typically in a place where they have a bandwidth where they can use those, I'll do that. But I'm very limited. I try not to go outside of the tools, the actual platform tools. So I apologize for not being more helpful there.
No problem, but I'm interested to know more about that. Why are you, let's say, a little bit afraid to move to external app? Is it about technical issues, or people will not be able to move quickly? Or? Yeah.
Oh yes, it's not a fear. It's just for me, it's a practicality, because when I'm moving, you got to take the time to have them go to the app, and if they've not had experience with the app, so you got to build that into the your session. And the type of training that I typically do, I don't do training on apps for virtual training and things like that. So I'm very narrowly focused in terms of getting the result. I'm going to give you, instead of teaching you all the features of your car, I'm here to teach you how to drive the car. If you want to know how to use, all the different unique features of your navigation system, I let other people do that. So that's where my focus and my premise is in terms of using apps, because you got to have time to, for them to move into the app. They got to understand how to use the app. Now, if they're very skilled at using it, like a lot of people are used to using Jambo or Kahoot, a lot of people know how to use those, then they can go fairly quickly. But what I have found, at least initially, from about March up until right now, people were struggling so much with just trying to figure out how to do this, that when you started adding in, I tried to add in Kahoot early on, and it was a disaster, because no one knew how, that audience did not know how to use Kahoot, or if they did, they didn't know how to do Zoom. And so it just took away from the effect. So I think there's a maturity level that we have to get to in terms of utilization of these tools. And as more people become familiar and comfortable with using them, you can expand out to all kinds of things. And if your audience is already there, go for it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go for it.
And one of the challenges is if you focus just on Zoom, that people also have to know more about functionalities. Like,
yes.
I don't know if you introduce everything. For example, if you wanna to take the stage, just hands up. But I want to show you the path, or how to do it. If you wanna make a reaction, this is the button. If you want to see me as a speaker view, go there. Do you give this during the session or before by email? What are your tips?
That's a great question. And again, that's another tip that I did in the video series, in terms of one person asked, when do I do that? Do I need to do that introduction of the tool every single time, an overview of how to use a tool? And my recommendation is, for the first time, if you're doing a virtual series of training, and they're going to be with you multiple times, you should do it one time, so that at least they know what to do when you're asking them to do it, and give them a job aid so that they know where to find things. And you can do that up front before they actually come to the class if you want.
Very good. We have a great question from Ibrahim Nebli, who is a professional trainer and coach. Do you think, Sardek, that Teams of Microsoft is harder to handle than Zoom for a participant who isn't really technically ready for online learning?
One word answer: yes.
Yes,
it is harder, because of the workarounds that are required in order to do the same types of things in Zoom. Now, again, I'm going to be upfront. I don't use Microsoft Teams as much for that reason. And I'm a big user of breakout rooms, and wanting people to be to be able to use the breakout rooms and do presentations and teach backs inside the breakout rooms and share their screens and all that. When I work with my producers, they kept telling me how much effort it would take to do the workarounds. And I know they are upgrading their system now, Microsoft Teams. And a good friend of mine mentioned that to be able to have the same functionality that Zoom has in Microsoft Teams is, around breakout rooms, is still about 1 to 3 months away. So yes, it is much more complicated to use Microsoft Teams. I recognize companies are using that, but it's harder than Zoom for right now, until they make it a little simpler. And they will, because of the competition.
Yeah. What about personal branding, clothes? We are at home. You are in your office, but you need to prepare yourself for a professional facilitation session concerning your clothes, the colors, etc. Would you like to share with us some tips about that?
Yeah, I'll keep that real simple. This is no different if you were going to a physical training classroom. Your image is everything. So you need to show up and look the part. I mean, it just doesn't get any simpler than that. Whether you're here virtually or there, it doesn't matter. And the other thing that I would say about being virtual, you need to be familiar with what colors look right on screen. So for example, this is a blue shirt. It's a light navy blue, light blue shirt.
Yeah.
I shouldn't use a white shirt with white lighting like this. It would wash me out. So you want to experiment. And the easiest way to figure this out, folks, is to turn on Zoom by yourself and try out different colors to see how your camera reacts. That's the other thing too, by the way, camera auto adjusting in terms of their zoom capability. The reason I chose the camera I chose is my lighting may change, but that thing will make sure that it auto adjusts and still captures the right type of colors. So when you're looking for cameras, external cameras, you want to look at that auto zoom and how it adjusts in different lights. Because if it doesn't have the right adjustments and your clothes are, darker or too light or weird, that's going to be distracting. So yeah, experiment with the different types of colors. Solid colors typically are best. Don't use anything with lines, because lines on screen will start to do that.
Yeah.
And it'll be distracting. So just play around.
We spent 55 minutes now, and it went really fast. I want to thank you. My last question, what do you think about blended training between e-learning and like asynchronous and synchronous training? Is it useful for you? Are you using that or not?
One word answer, yes. and to expand on that, when we typically would say blended learning, typically what that would mean before the pandemic was live classroom with some sort of online e-learning component.
Yeah.
Now, when we say blended learning, what it really should mean is you have a live component virtually with an on-demand asynchronous component virtually. And most people haven't figured that out just yet. And so when you look at trying to convert a full 8-hour or 16-hour course, 2-day course, 1-day course into the virtual world, what people are doing is trying to do all of this live. And that's where in Master Virtual Presenter, we show you based on what you're trying to accomplish. We show you what should you train in your live virtual instructor-led training. We give you a list of things that tell you what to train on demand to put in your on-demand content. And we show you what not to train at all virtually. Maybe you put that in a job aid. Maybe you put that in some reading offline. That's offline stuff. So that blended approach has to be there. If you're just trying to do, all of this online and live virtual, I always like to say you're wasting time and taking up space if you're doing that.
Yeah, we got a lot of information from you tonight. I want to thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to share. You are really humble because you are one of the most outstanding trainers worldwide that I met, and you accepted my invitation. Thank you so much. I want to give you the floor now. All the trainers, all the HR managers and training VPs or directors are watching us. What would you like to say to them? Because we are moving and we are living the new never more normal, and 2021 will not really be easy for trainers. They have to work hard to change, to switch, and to learn more about digital facilitation, especially in my continent and in my country. What would you like to say to them? Yeah.
Well, I would say this to you, to all of the folks that are watching. Do not underestimate the value that you're bringing. You are actually the transformation that's happening. Think about it. Everything went to working from work, to working from home or working remote. And when the training had to occur to make sure that people could still deliver and provide the services that they provide from your organizations, who did they come to? They came to you. So virtual skills and delivering training online. And there's my buddy right there walking in.
Yeah, the dog is here.
There's a distraction. And virtual training online is the #1 hottest skill on the planet right now. You are in demand like crazy. Don't give up your power. Take advantage of helping others grow, because you're making a huge difference in the way the world works now. And I would just say, don't succumb to the pressures of the usual. We have to do everything the way we've always done it virtually online and cram all this stuff and do an information dump. Those of you who don't do that and actually stick to your premise of let me train it, let me do it the right way and get the results, you're going to come out of this exceptionally successful. And so I encourage you to do that. And if I can help you in any way, feel free to reach out to me. You can follow me through the, askamasterfacilitator.com, sign up for that. If you're interested about Master Virtual Presenter, you can go to mastervirtualpresenter.com and take a look at that. I've got a live class coming up on December 15th, 16th, and 17th. It's just 2 hours each day for 3 days. And then you walk away and can transform your training. And then, of course, just email me if you have any questions. I'm known for responding to emails, so I'm happy to help you in any way I can. And I thank you again for having me tonight. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
It was an honor for me. Thank you so much, Sardek LOVE. And I want to remind people that please go to his websites and sign up for the newsletter, because I'm reading the newsletter every weekend. It's very, very outstanding, inspiring, and amazing.
Thank you.
I wanna thank you so much. Happy New Year, Happy Christmas also to you. And I wanna remind also all my followers that next week I will host one of the most outstanding trainer also in Africa. So he will come from Nigeria, and he will share with us something what we call the fate story, not the fake story, but it's the fate story. Wait for that. And I have a surprise for you. Before the end of this year, I will host one of the most well-known writers, authors worldwide. I will not mention the name. I hosted Mark Levy a few weeks ago, and I have a surprise for you. So just follow me on YouTube channel, and this talk also will be uploaded on my YouTube channel, Fares Ben Souilah.